The day I realized my house was not safe began like any other Tuesday. The kind of ordinary morning that hides the knives people sharpen in secret. I made coffee, kissed his cheek, and watched him leave for work with that same practiced smile that used to mean security. Our house looked perfect. Polished counters, fresh flowers, the luxury lifestyle we'd built together, or so I thought. I had no idea how quickly that facade would crumble, how our home would turn from sanctuary into a stage for betrayal, or how I would turn the humiliation into the coldest, most precise revenge. For years I ignored the little things. He was a man who loved his image, the tailored suits, the brand name watches, the Instagram photos of a life that looked effortless. I told myself he worked hard. I told myself that a husband's late nights were just part of ambition. Only later did I learn the language of lies. The late-night texts that disappeared when I walked into a room. The business trips with receipts that smelled faintly of perfume. The whispered apologies that were never meant for me. He called her a colleague. Everyone else called her the work wife. I called her the thing that ruined my sleep. The first time I realized my house felt unsafe was a small thing. The lock on the side door, usually latched, left slightly ajar. I brushed it off as forgetfulness. Later, I found a lipstick mark on a glass in the back of the dishwasher. Not mine. Not the color I ever wore. Panic flared like a sudden throat fire, but I swallowed it. I didn't want to become the woman who screamed and begged and gave him power over me. I wanted proof. I wanted to be sure that what I suspected was rotten, exactly as it smelled. I started watching. Not in a hysterical, frantic way, but with a quiet, calculating patience that I hadn't known I possessed. I started keeping the receipts, saving the screenshots, photographing the hotel logos on his credit card statements. The man I had trusted with everything was bleeding our savings on someone else's dinners. The $10,000 birthday dinner I paid for, the one with the private jazz band and the designer suit on his back, suddenly made sense as the night he toasted his work wife and humiliated me in front of our friends. That memory became a small, low-burning ember of fury I fed every time doubt crept into me. It got worse. He began to gaslight me, to call me paranoid, to tell anyone who would listen that I was unstable. He called it emotional drama. It was emotional abuse, plain and simple. He used our house as his stage, our marriage as his shield. He made me doubt my own instincts, and that made me angrier than anything. The humiliation wasn't just personal, it was public. He had made my life into a luxury dinner story, a laughing show for his coworkers and friends, and somewhere between the laughter and the clinking glasses I realized my home was no longer my shelter, it was his arena. The day I decided my house wasn't safe, I also decided it was time to be dangerous in return. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Revenge can be meticulous, clinical, and patient. I began to build alternatives. I opened a private account in my name, small at first, then larger. I started a side business teaching something I'd always been good at and funneled the earnings into that account. I read everything I could about financial independence and financial abuse awareness. I learned the signs and the laws. He could control the joint accounts, but he couldn't control what I could build quietly on my own. He'd spent years convincing me I couldn't manage money. I learned to manage it like a weapon. I gathered proof. Messages that called our intimacy transactional, receipts that showed hotel stays not listed as work expenses, pictures of the woman he called a friend, the mistress exposed in the harsh light of truth. I printed everything and made multiple copies. Every bank transfer that saw our savings disappear into the pockets of his lover or into bogus investments was documented. His financial abuse, The way he'd used my name and our marriage as a shield while he funneled funds into a luxury lifestyle gone wrong, became the paper trail I needed. The panic started in my chest the night he didn't come home. The house groaned with silence. My mind shifted from memories of laughter to the echo of footsteps that weren't his. I checked the cameras, real estate cam footage I had once installed for safety, and there they were, stepping out of a car late, the two of them hand in hand like they'd invented the world. The sight was a split-second hit of ice and fire. Horror at the betrayal. A fist of rage that tightened my entire body. For a moment I thought of confronting them in blood-rushing, dramatic fashion, the kind of scene that fills gossip columns, but I wanted something far more satisfying. I wanted justice, served cold and irreversible. I invited him to dinner at home the following week. He came back smelling of perfume, smiling, thinking nothing of the plan I was threading through my fingers. I cooked his favorite meal, sat across from him, and smiled like the woman at the luxury dinner who had laughed through the toast. He thought I was still the same. He thought he had broken me. He couldn't have been more wrong. That night I slid an envelope across the table. Not an argument, not a confrontation. Evidence. The copies of bank statements, screenshots of messages, the photos. I watched his hand hover, saw the micro-expression that passed over his face, the first crack in his carefully constructed armor. The house that had felt unsafe only hours before was now the tribunal where I held the judge's gavel. He accused me, of course. He called me a thief, a liar, someone out to ruin him. He screamed about betrayal, twisting the mirror back at me. He said I was destroying the family. He said everything he had used to manipulate and silence me for years. I let him talk. I let his words strip him down, because I had already done the work he hadn't anticipated. I had secured my freedom and the means to keep it. I filed for divorce and for the freeze of the accounts tied to the fraud. I delivered copies of everything to his employer. I made sure the mistress exposed wouldn't be able to continue the charade without consequences. The shock and humiliation he had inflicted on me became his new reality. He had once toasted someone else's importance in our home. Now everyone could see the cost of that toast. He tried to fight back in every way he could. He threatened, he begged, he offered me money like it was a salve for the wound he inflicted. He called me names, painted me as the villain in his version of the story. But revenge had never been about revenge for the sake of cruelty. My revenge was reclamation. Reclaiming my house, my name, my finances, my dignity. Each legal document he saw, each partner who stepped away from his firm, each friend who finally understood the truth, chipped away at the person he thought he was. There were nights of fear. There were days when I woke up shaking, terrified he would come to undo what I'd done. But the house, which once had felt like a trap, became mine again. I changed the locks. I changed the passwords. I turned every corner into a fortress of my own making. I paid close attention to the things that matter: financial independence, the support of people who actually cared, the slow rebuilding of self-worth. I started speaking about my story, carefully, to women who needed to hear it, about emotional abuse, about how a toxic marriage can hide behind a polished table, about leaving toxic relationships and rebuilding a life that belongs to you. The perfect revenge wasn't that I left him with nothing. It was that I built something he couldn't touch, a life beyond his reach. I started a small community group that helped women spot signs of financial abuse and to plan exits that protected them. I taught them how to document, how to build financial freedom, how to be a high-value woman not by what she possessed but by how she protected herself. They called it empowering women. I called it common sense. The irony that he had once mocked my efforts at independence now sat heavy on the table like an unpaid bill. In the months that followed, news of his downfall leaked into the places he'd once been proud to be seen. It was not a theatrical end with dramatic flames or scandalous headlines. It was quieter, but it was devastating to him. He watched the life he'd built on lies unravel, clients pulled, friends turned away, and his place at the table empty. The luxury dinner that had once been his stage was now the memory of what he had lost. The mistress he thought was his ally left when she realized she was part of a sinking ship. He tried to claw his way back, to apologize, to promise anything that might buy him forgiveness, but I had learned by then that regret doesn't restore trust. The house? It's mine now, finally safe in the way that matters. Safe because I can lock the door and know there's no one inside who will weaponize my life against me. Safe because I built a new bank account in my name, a business that pays for the smallest joys, and a support network that sees me clearly. Safe because I taught myself how to be financially independent, how to spot manipulation, and how to leave before the deception became permanent. The worst thing that happened in that house, the betrayal, turned into the most liberating thing that ever happened to me. It made me ruthless in the right way. Ruthless about protecting my boundaries, my finances, my children if I had them, and my heart. If you ever sit in your kitchen and feel the smallest tickle of doubt, the sideways glance, the missing wallet, the laugh that isn't meant for you, pay attention. Don't let words like paranoid silence your intuition. Trust your instincts. Learn the tools of financial independence and financial abuse awareness. Build quietly if you must. Revenge, if you choose that path, doesn't have to be cruel. It can simply be the act of taking back everything they assumed you would never fight for. The house that once was not safe became the place where I learned I was far more powerful than I thought. The revenge I served was not noise, it was a steady reclaiming of life. He learned, too late, that breaking my trust didn't destroy me, it revealed me.